work now and have for many years in the insurance business with your husband. When did you actually start?
Well, I stayed home with the children, and really at the beginning I kind of wanted to go to work, and Don said I really would like it if you would stay home, so I did. And then when I just had Stephen left in high school, Don said to me, I know you need something else, even though I was, on the school board and doing other things. He said, I know you need something else, and I don't want you working for anybody else because I want you to be available when I want to go away. I want you to be able to go with me. So he said, why don't you just come down and just try doing some personal stuff for me? So I said, okay. So I went down and I did a lot of his personal letters and political letters, and then I started doing some of his other work and filing. And so finally, oh gosh, that was at least a year I did. And then as you go along, of course, you're starting to do some insurance things without even knowing it. And then our accountant said, you really should be paying her because it's better for your taxes if you pay her. So Don said, okay. So then I started on a salary. And I didn't work full-time at all until Stephen was out of school. And even probably maybe when he was in college at the beginning, I didn't work full-time. So it was about 1974 maybe that I started to work, really a full work week at work. And so, and it was a change for me from education because that was my first love really. And I really would have loved, and I did a lot of substitute teaching when I was married. Barbara Stowe Putnam, she always would call me, and when her husband was very ill, I substituted for like 3 to 4 weeks, and then when her father died, I did the same thing. So I really liked that. I really loved the teaching.
Education is the Board of Education. I remember you as one of the very first women on the Board of Education here, and all the things you did. Do you want to say a little bit about your tenure on the board?
Well, I really loved that. I was on for 15 years, and when Stephen was born in 1961, Dr. Roberts, who was then president of the school board, came to me and said, I really would like you to come on the board. And at that time, I was working not really working. My office was president of the Adult Education Council, and that's how probably he knew that I was involved with the school. And I said, gee, I just can't. I have a newborn, and I had 3 other children, and there was no way that I could be doing that. And he said, well, I'm going to come and see you next year. So the following year he came and said, now are you ready? And I said, well, I talked it over with Don, and he thought it was probably too much. But he said, why don't you try it? Because then you can always decide that it's just too much work. So then I did. So that was, I think, 1962. That I went on the board, and I loved the work. I loved working with the system, and I saw a lot of changes there. And Mr. Joslin was the superintendent, who we just loved, and he was a wonderful person, a caring person, and really just was such a good role model, I think, for people. And at that time, one of the things that I was always upset about is that there weren't advanced placement courses here. And so that was one of my priorities, to try to get advanced placement. And another priority was preschool. We had no really, if you want to call it Head Start or whatever you want to call it, for children who were really underprivileged. And so that was another one of my goals, was to try to get that passed. And we did do that, and we were one of the pilots in New York State to get their preschool program. And it was really wonderful, and we became very personally involved in a lot of the cases, because we hired Millie Bloomquist, of course, who was just wonderful. And she knew everybody practically in Yates County that was needy. And so we really gave her pretty free rein about choosing about who to really have enter into that program. And so as a result, we worked closely with her and knew all about the families. And it was a very rewarding experience. And it was, I think, I still think that it probably is one of the best things that we have in the system, because out of that grew a lot of our help with disabilities. And we were a pilot school on disabilities. And probably because of Phil McGinnis, who had a child who needed help, and so he really made a crusade of that. So we were a pilot school for that. So there were a lot of good things.
Well, I know you certainly were very involved, and I even think you used to come in and teach a class, didn't you? Or you were in helping with some of the upper level language students?
Yes, I did. Oh, that's right, I forgot about that. I taught French 4 when they didn't have anybody to do that. And so I did that one year, I think it was 1970. I did the French 4 so that the kids could take the Regents, because there wasn't anybody to teach that. So I did that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Good. What other boards? I know you've been active, still are, in the hospital board, and do you want to list some of your other things you're involved in?
Well, after I was no longer on the school board, Dr. Jensen came to me and said, now that you're not on the school board, I'd like you to go on the hospital board. And I had never really thought of that, because the medical field was not mine, and yet at the same time that isn't the whole picture. And so I thought, well, that would be kind of a new venture. So I went on that in 1977. In 1984, I was still on that, and then we decided to form a foundation, the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hospital Foundation. And so I was one of those on the board of directors for that, and I'm still on that, and I have really enjoyed seeing that grow, because we started with no funds and no background and so we have seen that really grow to now we have an annual fund, and in 1989 we started a capital campaign, and I chaired that, and so that really helped us a lot, because with the capital campaign we finally had a database, which we had never had before, of givers, and so that we could reach out to them for our annual fund. And so that has been very rewarding, because we've had a good annual fund every year. And then on the regular hospital, we have now, it isn't really merged, affiliated with Geneva General Hospital, and we're called Finger Lakes Health, and I'm on that board now. And so I really have gone from the hospital board to the new Finger Lakes Health, and then I'm still on the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hospital Foundation Board.
Well, it's certainly wonderful that you can devote so much time and effort, and all the things. It must be very satisfying to see some of your accomplishments.
It is, yes.
You've also been involved in the church activities and almost everything in the community. So, as I said, it's wonderful to have you part of this. The AAUW is sponsoring this. How about telling us something about your almost 50 years in Yates County?
Right. Yes, right.
Almost 50 years of membership in Yates County branch of the American Association of University Women, and some of the offices you held.
Well, the way I